first of all, I want to thank you guys for coming. And just kind of welcome you to what we have going here. I know for many of us older Bridgewater people that think they'd be serving alcohol here, it never happened before. The new Bridgewater. So anyway, so it's a welcome to have you guys here. You know, this was a concept I had, you know, as I was messing through some old media guys probably 2 years ago, looking through it, and knew that this time was coming up here. As you look at the traditions of our program, the stored history, and all of a sudden say, you know, this is 125 years coming up to celebrate our program. So I went down to Kurt's office one day and said, Kurt, do you know this is coming up here? And we kind of did some math to make sure we're on the same page. And I said, you know, sure enough, this is the 125th year of Bridgewater College baseball. And like many of you as alumni, I'm proud to be here. I'm excited for what this school has done for me. The small part I was able to play in it over the years, and I said, hey, let's try to have a celebration about that we can do. So I appreciate you all coming. I know some of you came from far away, and making that happen makes this event even that much more special. You know, we did a small event in January of 2020 to try to kick our season off. We had a really good turnout. Not quite this big, but a good turnout, and I thought this was really some good momentum we can have to celebrate our program on a yearly basis or every couple of years. And then COVID hit, so that kind of put that in the mix for a while. So to try to use this again as an opportunity to put together and celebrate our program was what I was hoping for. And we do have the teams of distinction going in, which was 1994, 1995, 1996 teams tomorrow. So I said, hey, if we can tie this together and make this work, that's what we wanted to do. So that's the purpose for it. It's just a chance to be able to celebrate and see people we haven't seen for years and make that connection. And I think that's a special part of it all. And I tell our players all the time right now that that's one of the things that you'll understand as time goes by, to be able to see people, to talk to people, the relationships you had, how they're doing when you go to their weddings and you go to them when they start to have kids and stuff is an exciting time. And you know, for me, the common bond is Bridgewater College baseball. I think that's exciting. So before we get started today with the program, I wanted to welcome a couple special guests. First of all, I want to welcome Dr. Tom Kinder's wife and daughter, Deborah and Mandy Kinder, who I reached out to last minute in some sense, and I was able to track some numbers down, not on Facebook, so through from Brooke Hodges was able to help me track them down, and Leanne. So I wanted to invite them for the part that Tom Kinder played in the program and have them come be a part of it. So I was gracious they could make it work. So thank you for coming. I also want to take the time to thank, Kurt Kendall, who's here. He's going to speak today, but also his family for coming. I know, just like talking with Mandy and Deborah before out here a little bit, the fact that they grew up here on this campus and were a part of this, and I know many of us as players remember seeing both Brooke and Kelly when they were small, and ride on the bus to us for some games and so forth. And I think the fact that they were able to come to this event, so I want to welcome Brooke and Tyler Hodges were here, Kurt's daughter, and also Kelly and Aaron Ford, who are here as well. So I appreciate them coming as well. And it's unfortunate Leanne was unable to make it. She's recently had surgery and was unable to be a part of this. But once again, they were a part of this program for so many years and grew up on this campus. So I want to thank them for coming for this opportunity as well. And finally, I want to thank my family, my wife Angie, who's here, and 3 of my children, Brady, Allen, and Rylan, are here as well. My daughter Landon is in college right now, so she's unable to attend, but the fact that they were able to come too, and I always say that 3 of my 4 children were born when I was here coaching, and remember this place, and then it's an opportunity to come back and have to be on this campus again is important to me as well. So I want to thank them for coming as well. I wanted to just make a references here as well today that what's the program about? When you look at the highlights of our program over the years, and when you really sit down and look at it, these are some of the highlights we've been able to have over the years. 14 Old Dominion Athletic Conference championships, which is the most in league history. 10 NCAA regional appearances, which is the most. We also have 1937 Chesapeake Athletic Conference championship, a 1942 Little 6 Mason-Dixon Conference championship, a Little 8 Mason-Dixon Conference championship in 1960 and 1962. Virginia College Athletic Association Championship in 1973. 9 total ODAC Players of the Year are here that we have in our program. We've had 2 ODAC Pitchers of the Year, who actually are both here. Kevin Chandler and Reed Long are both here. ODAC Players of the Year, that Mark Puckett is here, who is going to speak to us this evening, is here. And Ricky Reed is also here as well tonight. So it's great to have those guys back. We've had 3 ODAC Rookie of the Years. Ricky Reed, once again, is here. Andy Krismer and Tyler Hodges is here as well. So we've got two of our 3 ODAC Rookie of the Years are here. ODAC Coach of the Year, Dr. Jim Reedy in 1978, Dr. Tom Kinder in 1985, Kirk Kendall in 1986, 1988, 2001, 2002, 2011, 2013. We've had over 80 first-team All-ODAC selections, 10 All-Americans in program history, with Mark being one of those here that's a 2-time All-American that's here. We've had 10 in program history. We've had 6 players drafted, with 1 making it to the majors with Benny Huffman. We've had several players sign professional contracts. So that's one of those things that just speaks to the quality of our program over the years. And the way I look at this is that we've all played a part in that. And conversation I had with Mark down at the field today when he stopped by to watch us practice a little bit. And one of the things I've told our players as they move forward that no matter what time era you played at Bridgewater College and when you did it, if you cross paths with someone and they said, "Oh, I played at Bridgewater College. What year?" "I played in 2007. "Oh, what year did you play?" 1988. There's an instant connection there, an instant bond that knows and speaks to the quality of the program here, and then know, well, I don't really know you, but you must have been a good player, and I know you did things right. And that's one of the things for me that I'm very proud of as we talk about what it means to play at Bridgewater. And I'm thankful for you guys coming to this event and to make it part of it here. And really what I tried to do when I put this program together was just try to cover some of the history about it and have people talk about that time era. And the first one we're going to talk about is the early 1970s. Dr. Jim Reedy coached from 1967 to 71 and again from 74 to 78, so 10 seasons. Jim Reedy was a coach at Bridgewater College. He coached BC's first All-American, Jeff Giannakis, in 1975. I believe I said that right. He also won Bridgewater College's first ODAC title in 1978, which was the first of our 14 ODAC titles. And he was named ODAC Coach of the Year in 1978. He was inducted into the Bridgewater College Hall of Fame in 1998 for his accomplishments as a player, but also as an administrator and a coach. During that time frame, which Bo Trumbull will allude to, was Buddy Comer. Buddy played baseball at Bridgewater for 2 seasons, and he was named All-Mason-Dixon Conference. Buddy left BC at the age of 19 after signing a professional baseball contract with the Washington Senators, where he played 2 seasons of pro ball. He then returned to BC as assistant Dan Geyser for 2 years, and also was the head coach here in 1972. Buddy was inducted into the BC Hall of Fame in 2003. And finally, Coach Ray Hebel, who's a Hall of Fame member here, is here this evening. It was class of 1967. Ray played baseball for 4 years at Bridgewater, where he was a second baseman and was a captain during his senior year. Ray was the head coach in 1973 when Bridgewater College won the Virginia Collegiate Athletic Association Championship. As many of you know, Ray left here to be a successful high school coach at Turner Ashby High School, where he had a 303 wins, 66 losses, and 2 ties. While at Turner Ashby, won 12 district titles, 6 regional titles, and 3 state championships. He also coached at JMU as an assistant coach from 1986 to 1989. He was the head coach from 1990 to 93. He returned to Bridgewater College and was the assistant coach and pitching coach from 2004 to 2007 with some of the guys that are here he coached. And he was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2008. So, to cover 3 coaches that were in that early 70s period, Jim Reedy, Buddy Comer, and Ray Hebel, who's with us tonight, it's an honor. When I reached out to Bo, many of you know Bo Trumbull over the years as always being a staple of Bridgewater College. When I reached out to Bo, I said, Bo, you played for Jim Reedy, you played for Buddy Comer, you played for Ray Hebel. I would like for you to talk about that time era, and certainly Bo was more than willing. Bo played at Bridgewater College from 1971 to 74. He was a part of the 1973 team coached by Ray Hebel that won the Virginia Collegiate Athletic Association Championship. He continues to this day to hold BC's career ERA record, BC's career complete games record, and the 2nd best season ERA. He's had the 2nd best season ERA, 7th most in complete games in school history. A 4-time Valley League All-Star. He's worked as a Major League Scout for 47 years. With 8 Major League Baseball teams. He signed 5 players who played in Major Leagues and signed the Cincinnati Reds #1 pick in 1996. Bo spent 29 years in education. He has also been a big member of the Bridgewater College Alumni Association. Bo was inducted in the Bridgewater College Hall of Fame in 2014. He's also members of the Roanoke Salem Baseball Hall of Fame and the Valley Baseball League. One of the things I think was unique talking to Bo is his ties to Bridgewater, and I think he said he was 2nd generation, I believe. Baseball player here in Bridgewater College attendee. So to talk about that era here for a few minutes is Marion Bo Trumbull, class of 74.
Getting old's bad. My knees are going, genetically as well as athletically, and everything involved. It's good to be here. Okay, now, I'm of the era of which you didn't know what was going on, you didn't have stopwatches, you didn't have radar guns. So I'm gonna find out if you know how much time is. Stopwatch, 10-second stopwatch. The only ones who use 10-second stopwatches are baseball players and bull riders. All right, I'm gonna start it. You tell me, raise your hand when you think it's 11 seconds. Go. Bingo. Now, I'm part of that. I like to use that because it shows how the game has changed. Over my years, I'm the link from 1930 to 1974. 1930, if you saw any of the slideshow, Benny Huffman from Lou Ray. He was a White Sox player, her coach, manager, and scout. As I got into my scouting career in '76, he was on his way out. And I've been scouting in '76 at all levels. I had 10 years Major League experience in the '90s with the Reds, and it's been a good thing. Benny and I would see each other on the road, and we'd talk and say, "What's going on in Bridgewater?" And he said, "I don't know, I ain't been over there." But Benny was a great guy, one of the great leaders, professional. Benny signed Harold Baines of the White Sox over in your neck of the woods, Wayne, on the Eastern Shore. And so Benny was there, always helpful with the guidance and everything else involved. He and I would always talk. He would work the AAA tournament in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and go from there. And we'd sit up there and talk. And that's when scouts came to ball games and coat and ties. Now, how many of you see that today? None. So you do that. But these were gentlemen who taught me how to scout over the years. I've been very fortunate. Second generation. Other than Kenny Utterback, keep your hand down. How many here are second generation baseball players at Bridgewater College? I'll be damned. Congratulations. What year did you play here?
Graduated last year, 2022.
You did, but what about your parent?
92.
92.
Very good. Very good. Glad to have you here. Kenny was my catcher in '73. He graduated in '75. His father, Jimmy, played in the major leagues. His best friend, Jimmy's best friend, was Johnny Vance. Johnny Vance's nephew is my close friend. We met in Northern Virginia. The thread is here. Bridgewater College baseball, Bridgewater College. And so, come to 1949. If you saw the picture up here of coming out of the old gym, my dad and uncle were in it. And they were from Falks Run, Virginia. Now, that's a big metropolis, west of Broadway, but it was important. Dad graduated in '49. He was up in that era. He could pitch. He was in the Valley League at that time. When the old Valley League was a good league. I mean, it was hard-nosed. You come to play, you better bring it down. So at that time, it was Whitney, Harold, and Oliver. And they all had good times, and we kept up. All of them are deceased now. But we kept baseball going. I was born in '52 when we were in Goshen, Virginia. Metropolitan area of Rockbridge County. But it was good. Dad started me early as one of my best coaches. Kenny, I know his dad taught him well as far as catching. And we were members of the '73 team. Ray, myself, and Kenny are here from the '73 team. Now, '74, I graduated. I wanted to play pro ball. But I also realized that coming later that, okay, I had a good going. but I could not have passed the physical as I learned later when I got scouted. So I had to switch gears. So we're bringing it all in and out, but it was all the scouting at that time was done, eyes, ears. Could you hear the guy run or see him run? How did they determine a ball player without the stopwatch, without the velocity? This is Charlie Wagner. The Red Sox player was Ted Williams' roommate, and I got to know Charlie before he passed. One time in Pennsylvania, the guy asked him, Charlie, how hard was this guy throwing? Charlie said, not hard enough. That's the way you train, and that's the way I was trained. And I got to be a point where I can scout pretty much, learning this trade and business with others coming through the valley. Now I've been very fortunate in scouting. I'm still active. I'm working with the young scout in the Oakland A's, and I'm doing some scouting work for the Bluefield Bridgerunners in the new Appalachian League. Now, Bill, that's another issue for Major League Baseball at times. It's another issue. But 3 threads I like to bring. Shenandoah Valley. I found out tonight that they shut baseball down in 1909, 1906 to 18. Where did they play? In the valley. Local teams. They played, kept playing. But then when it came back here to Bridgewater, Wayne was telling me we had the best dugouts in 63?
61, 62, 63.
Yeah, benches. We had benches in 71. But it's the idea of what's going on. And so we bring it up to the creek now. And the last thing I say, when I was scouting by Cincinnati, my responsibility was in South Florida. Now you take me, family and folks run, and you go into Miami, and you gonna try to fit in. First year they called me everything but a good man in Spanish. But over the years, what I learned at Bridgewater and treating people well, one of my best friends who came, they're still my best friend, is Camilo Pasquale out of Havana. Came over, his family came over. He and I still communicate today. I saw him last when Jim Bob Lemon passed, and here's Camilo. He and Raquel drove from Miami to Covington. Night before, went to the funeral, drove back to Miami that night. Great person. But we all represent. One time I wore a Bridgewater College sweater. Yeah, occasionally it gets cold in Florida, South Florida, occasionally. I wore a Bridgewater, and they said, where is it? I said, it's in the valley up near Harrisonburg. Can I go there? Yes, sir, you can. I don't know if he did or not, but he asked. Also, that Ben said the thread. When I went for my first year at Cincinnati, I was sent to Tampa, next year into Miami. Oh, where'd you play? Newmarket. What year? 73, 4, 5. Oh, I played in there. I played in the Valley in 93. There was a young scout, young Latin scout from Miami. We all are ambassadors for our families, for our teams, for us, and it's great to be part of it. Thank you.
Well, as we move forward here, I moved to what I call the Dr. Tom Kinder era, 1978 to 1985. And Dr. Kinder began his tenure, and I think this has touched a lot of us in here because there's enough carryover of people here that either played for Dr. Kinder or were around when he was still here. But began his tenure at Bridgewater, where he was a baseball coach from 1978 to 1985. He amassed a 98, 78, 2 record during his 7 seasons. That included a 1985 ODAC championship as well as ODAC Coach of the Year. He coached, Dr. Kinder coached 2-time All-American Mark Puckett as well as 16 first-team All-ODAC players. He was served as athletic director at Bridgewater College from 1978 to 2000, as well as chairman of the physical education department. Dr. Kinder was inducted in the Bridgewater College Hall of Fame in 2002. To talk about Dr. Kinder is Mark Puckett, class of 1982. Mark was a 1981 All-ODAC first team selection as well as ODAC Player of the Year. He was named a third team All-American that year. In 1982, Mark was again All-ODAC first team as well as an All-American third team member. To this day, Mark still has the second highest career batting average, fifth career slugging percentage, second best single season average in BC history in 1981 with 465. Jay Wampler's at 471 in 1988. Fourth best single season slugging percentage in BC history. Tied for the most RBIs in a game in Bridgewater College history. Tied for the most doubles in a game in Bridgewater College history. And I'll mention this, he's tied with Fred Hugel, Jason Bird, and I'll mention Kevin Nevada because he's here tonight. Mark was inducted into the class of 2007 Bridgewater College Hall of Fame. He's a retired high school teacher and coach where he spent over 27 years teaching and over 30 years in the public schools. He coached high school baseball for 20 years and had two former players attend and play at Bridgewater, Andy Lipinski, who's here tonight, and Jordy Hare, who many of you know. Mark also spent time as an assistant coach at UMBC and still remains active with private lessons to this day. One of the things that I think that many of us have had happen to us here, but I was glad to hear when I put the two and two together. Mark met his wife Alice while here at Bridgewater College. She's a 2006 BC Field Hockey Hall of Fame inductee. The couple have two children, a daughter Lindsay and a son Andy, and this was unique when we talked on the phone. Lindsay was a three-time high school field hockey All-American and a two-time field hockey national champion at the University of Maryland. Mark and his wife Alice split their residence between Pauley Island, South Carolina, and Habit de Grace, Maryland. One of those things, I looked through old media guys and I didn't know who Mark Puck. I never met Mark, never talked to Mark until we connected when I said, hey, I'd love to have you come. I know you had a significant part of this time here. I'm trying to talk about Dr. Tom Kinder's era, and I've seen you in the record books a lot, but I don't know who you are. And I will say this to Mark, I've enjoyed our conversations over the phone that we've had here in the last few weeks. I enjoyed him coming today to practice with Andy and just catching up and talking about stories and stuff. So I'm thankful, one, to meet Mark, but also thankful to Mark to come tonight, to speak tonight. Mark.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Coach Spots for putting this event together tonight. I think it captures the community, family, Bridgewater College baseball. He points out that we have a great legacy. We're continuing that legacy. And he has taken the reins, and I know he's going to do great things with this program for many years. Got to thank Andy Lipinski for driving me down today. Really enjoyed catching up with Andy. As Ben said, I coached him in high school, Jordy Hare as well. And we had a great time today. Driving down, driving around Bridgewater. And Andy had a lot of questions. He pointed something and said, was that here when you came to school? And pretty much the answer was no. There have been a lot of changes in the town of Bridgewater. There have been a lot of changes on campus. So, yeah, that was great. So good to see Deborah and Mandy. As I shared with him in the hallway, I remember the day Mandy was born. And I remember the day that Deborah and Kinder got back from their honeymoon. I was on Low Run. I was here for summer school that year. And I was running down toward the road that takes you up Cardiac Hill. You like to run up many, many times. And here they come. He's driving Deborah's car. They have U-Haul in the back. So they wave, I wave. And so much a part, I think, of our program is family. And you guys are great. Now, Bridgewater's a great place. And I say that with conviction because I got a degree here, I had a great baseball experience, and I met my wife. And I say it with conviction also because I didn't start at Bridgewater, I'm a transfer. I started at another Division III school. I was very familiar with Bridgewater because my future brother-in-law, Mike Church, was catching at Bridgewater. My sister followed Mike here. She was scorekeeper for a couple of years. And I made the assumption that all Division III schools and Division III baseball is pretty much the same. So when I got recruited heavily to North Carolina Wesleyan, I went to school there. Baseball was good, but I'm so glad that I made a change. Bridgewater was a place for me. And when I got here mid-year, and I was immediately accepted by sort of the old guard on the team. Jeff Hooley, Robert Weeks, Larry French, John Wiley, Silas Harvey. They didn't treat me like a freshman, new kid. They welcomed me, they helped me. And as time passed, I had some other experiences with teammates. Obviously, I can't go into all of them. We don't have that much time tonight. But I met Coach Davis today. Went to school with his parents. Played baseball with Gene. Great friends with Scotty. My wife Alice and Scotty, great friends in school. And before my junior year, 1981, it looked like I was going to play full-time first base. And Gene walks up to me and very politely got in my face. He was very polite, very polite. And he said, look, you need to have a good year. Because if you have a good year, I don't mind sitting on the bench behind you. So you need to have a good year. As a high school coach, I shared that with players for years. Where I'd say, you're not in the start lineup, find a guy playing your position and remind him he owes 100% today. It's the Gene Davis rule. Now, Ben and I had a great conversation the other night about travel. In our era, we rode in vans. Not one single time in my career at Bridgewater did we get on a coach bus. Not once. We drove the vans. And occasionally we'd have a car thrown in, like for a trip to Georgia, because we couldn't fit us all in the van. And I think the biggest challenge of my college career, Dr. Kenner liked for me to drive the vans. The last couple of years, I think I drove about 100% of the time. He had this theory that I hit better when I drove. Okay. I'll buy it. Anything. Baseball guys, a little superstitious. Works for me. Well, I can remember driving through the mountains of Southwest Virginia. And it's already hilly and it's usually windy up there. Now, Ben and I were talking about how today, players have their phones. So they have entertainment. In those vans, you were lucky if you got one radio station. So players entertain themselves other ways. In that era, the entertainment was pretty much take the freshman wherever he's sitting and pass him around the van. So I'm driving over the mountain in the wind. There's the big drop off, and the van's rocking side to side. And there's no need to ask, you guys knock it, no, won't gonna happen. So I still believe that might have been my biggest challenge. I remember 4 years we went to Savannah, Georgia on our spring trip. Dr. Kendra had come from Savannah, where he had coached at Armstrong State, so we always started the season with 2-3 games of Armstrong, and then usually we would play a couple other teams. It was in Savannah that I learned that St. Patrick's Day is a big deal. I never knew it. But we were playing there St. Patrick's Day, and there were 4 or 5 kids, I'm gonna say they're 8, 10, 12, riding their bicycles around. And this is 11:30 in the morning. One of my teammates says, hey, you derelicts, why aren't you in school? I said, there's no school today. We got the parade. I never knew. St. Patrick's Day was that big a deal. And today, my daughter, who lives close to Savannah, she lives in Bluffton, South Carolina, she made plans to go experience Savannah, so I'm looking forward to the report. Especially in Savannah, but everywhere, Dr. Kinder kept us well fed. He knew how to find the places where our little bit of meal money would get us the biggest bang for the buck. And he was great at giving us choices. I mean, we didn't pull into McDonald's. We would pull into a place, there's a McDonald's, there's a Shoney's, 2 or 3 choices. He was great. Now, in Savannah, there is a place called Mrs. Wilkes Boarding House. And I'm not sure how long it's been in operation, decades, maybe centuries, I don't know. Excuse me. Every year, he treated us to lunch at Mrs. Wilkes. Now, they open at 11. They don't advertise. There are no signs on the window. You only know about it if you know about it. For 11 o'clock seating, we were always in line by 10:30. And there was a long line behind us. We would go in, we would sit down. Mr. Wilkes would ask the blessing. We would pass everything around family stock. When you were finished, you took your dishes to the kitchen. My daughter and my wife were in Savannah last week doing a tour. They stopped at Mrs. Wilkes. My daughter said, I've been hearing about it all my life. Now they didn't eat, but I promise you, I'm going to go back soon, and we're going to go in and eat Mrs. Wilkes. One of our trips to Savannah, after we finished playing Armstrong State, and I think it was 81 because we beat Armstrong 2 out of 3. So we're pumped. Yeah, this is good. Then we have a doubleheader against Lafayette and Lee College from Tennessee. Well, we lose a heartbreaker to Lafayette. And now we're playing Lee College. In those days in Armstrong State, the field was nice. There's no windscreen. There's a chain link fence in the outfield. And beyond the fence, there's probably 200-300 yards of open space that is nicely mown grass. So there's not a lot of background there. One of the games against Armstrong State, one of their players hits a ball in the gap in left center field, bounces over the fence. Now, I only know, I'm playing first base, I can't tell, but our left fielder said bounce over the fence. Well, umpires, home run. Well, Greg Maynard, hey, the ball bounced. And the umpire says, we can't see it, to be honest. You've got to put your hands up right away. So we're playing Lee College. It's a close game, it's probably closer than it should have been. And they have a guy who hits one out of the gap in left center field that goes out of the ballpark. I only know that because Greg told me later. What did Greg do? Umpire's pointing to second base. And the guy from Lee College didn't seem to mind. He was so excited. I don't know, maybe his first college hit or something. He was so excited, he just got a double. He's standing on second base, he's beaming. Greg comes in and says, oh, that was out of here. So that was a game where we probably should have finished early, but we didn't. We go to extra innings. And Brian Balzer, who's one of our starters, comes in relief. And we thought it was going to be a couple innings. Now he turns in about 6 or 7 innings. We're rolling on 11th, 12th inning. So in the 11th, 12th inning, now we lost the coin toss, so we're the visiting team. I'm on third base. Dr. Kinder loved the suicide squeeze. My high school coach loved the suicide squeeze. As a high school coach, I loved the suicide squeeze. Well, he put it on. There was no question, he puts it on. So here I come lumbering up the line, and the ball bounces in front of home plate. Greg Maynard, there he is again, in the middle of everything in this game. He's down on one knee trying to short out the ball. Great effort. Didn't get it. But the ball bounces off the catcher, rolls in front of the plate. There are bodies everywhere. So I didn't slide. I saw an opening. I run through this gap and score. In the dugout, Brian jumps up in excitement, hits his head on the beam in the dugout, splits his head open. All right, we gotta leave, but we gotta get somebody up in the bullpen right away because he's gotta go to the emergency room. Now remember, we rode in vans, 2 of them. Well, one of them took Brian to the emergency room. Guess where the rest of us? We got on the other van. With all of our gear, everything, we're crawling. I mean, fortunately, it was only a few blocks to the hospital. But that was before cell phones and all that. You know, hey, come pick us up when they get done stitching up. So we're all packed in the van. So needless to say, that was quite a day. We win the game, we come home with a winning record. We wanted to have a really good year. Now, this is the Tom Kender era. Coach, advisor, mentor. Of course, he built a house on top of Cardiac Hill because the man loved to run. I was talking to Deborah earlier, and she said he ran 364 days a year. He took off New Year's Day, and that's it. The man loved to run. He loved restaurants. I always felt like there was a mile between bases. We'd have the best team speed in college baseball. So we were in shape. Yeah, we would run the 4-mile course. We would run Cardiac Hill. You know, he'd give us something. Oh, okay, we're going to run 6 times on the hill today. Okay, so we run from here over the bottom of the hill all the way to the top. The pavement stopped at the top and the bottom. You had to run pavement to pavement 6 times. The last time you got to go over the hill, loop around to campus, come back, and we're done. He was a great role model. I was telling Andy on the way down today, I don't think I've met anybody in my life that had a better sense of priority. He had priorities, he stuck to them. And that was just a great thing for me to witness and for everybody else to witness. He had a vision. When he came to Bridgewater in 1978, you know, we've talked a little bit about facilities in that era. We had benches down by the field, there were no dugouts. Today Andy said, were these bleachers here when you were in school? I said, no, Andy. I said, we had a big puddle behind the backstop. A lot of foul balls went in there. But there were no bleachers. But by the time I graduated, we had dugouts. And then as the years passed, I started to see improvements. Not only the baseball facility, but the entire athletic facility here. And I believe it was his vision that started us down that path. And all the great things that the old guys like me are now seeing when I come back to visit, he started the ball rolling. Every year we got team rules. It was 1 page. You know, it wasn't extensive, but it told you, you know, certain things that you could not do and certain things that you would do. And at the bottom of the page, there was 2 comments. And I think I'm pretty accurate in quoting them word for word. This program is one of the best in the South. You have to be good to be an Eagle. Now, when he left the dugout, went into the AD's office full time, put the program in Kurt Kendall's hands, which obviously was a great move. Kurt's done so many great things here. Had an opportunity to play with Kurt. We lived close together in the dorms. He's a very good basketball player too. Our intramural team did all right. But I think my favorite Kurt story, I'm pretty sure it was the day before we were supposed to play Lynchburg, which was always the biggest doubleheader of the year. And we're, I'm not going to say low on pitching, but obviously if we can save some arms for the biggest doubleheader of the year, it's a good thing. Kurt can pitch. We didn't know that. He pitched, complete game. I think it was on the state or somebody like that. We were like 9-2. That's what he did. Stepped up, got it done. So thank you for listening to me tonight. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being part of this great Bridgewater baseball family. And I'm going to say Dr. Kenner was right. The program is one of the best in the South. You have to be good to be an Eagle. Thank you.
It's funny when I hear Mark talk about van rides, and there's many of us in here that did those van rides. And we know now oftentimes too where the beginning of cardiac happened for a lot of us here. Because I still see alumni. Barry Davis, to this day, I talk to Barry a lot. Barry still talks about running cardiac, and I can see the exact same thing that Mark was doing. Kurt learned well. So we did the same thing. So there's always that. But we had John Spencer at the bottom of the hill to make sure he reached out. I think I can still see that manhole cover at the bottom, and he would be at the bottom. And just when you would suffer through it, it had to go up and over and back around, and it was like, oh man. So, and sometimes I wonder I should bring that back into play sometimes, because you know what? We were pretty tough. Guys were pretty tough back then. So, anyway, as we move forward here, feel free to get yourself another drink or whatever out there. I mean, the restrooms are out there. Just, I want to be relaxed. So, as we move forward, thank you, Mark, for that with Dr. Tom Kinder's era. Kurt Kendall era. Now, I have 4 people speaking because he was here for so long. And I think the whole idea behind it is that Kurt Kendall, who coached in 1986, is different than the Kurt Kendall that coached in 2019. And the experiences, the players, the times, all those things were different. So, before I I'll start with Kurt. I want to say this first of all. Kurt was here for 34 seasons, 790 wins, 528 losses, and 10 ties. 12 ODAC championships, 13 ODAC regular season titles, 10 NCAA appearances. The 2014 team, which is members of here tonight, has a school record 36 wins, which was 1 win away from the Division III College World Series. 6 ODAC Coach of the Year awards, 3 Virginia SID Coach of the Year awards, 60 All-ODAC First Team selections, 8 ODAC Players of the Year, 4 ODAC Rookies of the Year winners, 1 Pitcher of the Year, 5 All-Americans. Certainly, he's touched my life in a lot of ways, and the opportunity for me to be able to play here was life-changing for me. So I was just like, you know, I've got some people to talk about that here. Now, first in the program, you can see Greg Eckrow was listed to talk. I've known Greg for years, and Greg spoke at our event a few years ago and did a really good job. But Greg's daughter plays softball here, just had a softball game the other day and had an injury that required surgery, so he was not able to make it now. So, you know, I was sitting in the office the other day, and I've known Jim DeLucas for years, but also I knew what he did here, but I didn't really know what he did here. You know, I went back and looked and said, you know what? This is a perfect guy to lead us off and to step in. So I called Jim, and Jim answered the phone. He was on his way home and said, hey, I would have no problem hopping in and helping out. So Jim was a class of 1988, played at Bridgewater College from 1985 to 1980, played 1 year for Dr. Tom Kinder, and then also 3 for Kurt. He was a member of the 1985 ODAC Championship. He played 3 seasons for Kurt, where they won an ODAC title in 1986 as well as 1988. Jim's in the BC record books, is ranked 3rd all-time in the career ERA. He's 4th all-time in career appearances, and he's 3rd in career saves. He is ranked 6th in single-season ERA and is tied 5th in season saves in 1986, and is also tied 15th twice in 1987 and 88 as well. He's a guy get the ball too late in the ball game. So after graduation, and I asked Jim yesterday, he began working at Nielsen Construction, where he spent the last 35 years. He began as a summer worker and a laborer and has worked his way up to Chief Development Officer and is the chairman of the board at Nielsen Construction. Jim has been married to his wife, Vanine, for 32 years. They have 2 children. Son Cole was a financial planner in Reston, Virginia, and his daughter Addison, who's here tonight, who is a nurse at Centera in Harrisonburg. And I thank them both for coming tonight as well. And I appreciate Jim for hopping in here last minute. So, Jim DeLucas, class of '88.
Ben mentioned to me that I'd be a pinch hitter, but for those of you that were pitchers back then, we had DHs, so we never got to hit. But I was a relief pitcher, so I'm in relief for Greg, and hope his daughter's doing well, recovering. Mark, you brought back a lot of memories, because I had the honor of playing under Dr. Kinder, as well as Kurt. And don't forget Coach Spencer in there too. Got a few stories on that also. But I remember the meals at Ms. Wilkes. Ms. Wilkes Boarding House. I remember that. I don't know if the Armstrong, we played Armstrong State also, and there was an umpire who looked like Ric Flair. And he would call out whenever there was a strike. You know, you would see it on YouTube. You know, he was kind of real adamant. He'd say, "You're a big man," with a real deep voice. I remember that distinctly. But there's a lot of memories and a lot of stories. There's a lot of people that we crossed paths with. The cardiac, the laps around. But it was interesting because when Dr. Kinder retired and Kirk took over, Kirk kept us running cardiac, kept us running the loops around. There are stories out there, no names at all, of people getting picked up over here and dropped over here. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's stories. No names. I look at the time that I was here as a transitional period. Obviously, Dr. Kinder to Kurt. If you look outside here, you talk about dugouts and benches. Well, I was here for the flood of '85, which just wiped everything out here, which at the same time devastated the community. Was a godsend for Bridgewater. We got bleachers, we got football bleachers, we got baseball bleachers, new dugouts. So I think the dugout that was in the picture was the one that got destroyed because it was going perpendicular to the river, and that just got wiped out. I was telling a story over here. When that river came up, we were standing on the back of Nininger Hall. And at the time, that was November, so we had football practice, and we went over to have dinner. And then the coaches all said, "You need to get back to Nininger. We got to get all the equipment up off the main level, or the bottom level, and raise it, because the river, from the time we finished football practice to the time we started eating, the river came to Nininger. When the water finally seceded, after cows went by, trailers went by, it was quite amazing. And I'm from South Jersey. We didn't see stuff like that, but it was pretty amazing to me. But when the river finally went down, we ended up with two rivers out here, because those of you that may remember, the football field had a really high ground. Where the track is now became a river in itself. And when that water went down, there were trout that were just trapped. And they were huge. And we're out there picking them up there. But anyway, that year, so let's see, that would have been '85. So then '86, we were at Memorial Stadium. And you guys tell me if I got my dates right. But we ended up playing our games there. The Clover Dome. We were at behind John Whalen. So we were uprooted, but the coaches kept us together, and we figured all that out. '86, that year, that was the Lynchburg year. So one of Kurt's first years, we had a brawl. I don't know if y'all ever heard about it. It's proof, there's proof on the internet of this brawl. The story I like to tell people, now whether or not that is true, is I was on the mound. At least in my story, I was on the mound. And I came in relief. and I forget who was pitching. I came in relief. Guy was on first, and I picked him off first base. And then the coach started getting mad. Was it Thomas?
Jerry Thomas.
He was getting mad with the umpire. And then there was one of the Able boys started getting mouthy with the umpire. And for some reason, the umpire, I think it was, he got thrown out. The umpire went in their dugout. Remember Memorial, you had to step down into the dugouts. He went down in there. Next thing I know, he's running out, and here comes the whole Lynchburg squad after the umpire. We're just out in the field and in our dugouts. Well, next thing you know, the worlds collided, and it's just a full. I grabbed the smallest guy I could. I remember Kirk was out there trying to keep order, but we had fans coming out of the stands. I remember them coming out because I know a couple. At least that's the story I remember. But it is true, and it is on the internet. You know, one thing about Dr. Kuhner that I always remember, when he became the athletic director and was not the coach anymore, he would always come up to us and see how things were going. How was the game? How are you doing? How's class? How's grades? And all that good stuff. And how he got to know you. And that made, you know, I was a freshman his last year, so that made me feel good. And then as I went through, you know, just knowing he was there to support. Then we moved over to Coach Kendall. I still call him Coach. They even called you Coach tonight. I don't know. I won't call you Kurt. But, you know, so that was '86. Told you about the flood. We had our second ODAC championship that year. But the stories, the trips that you talk about, the vans, our entertainment was who you could wave to as they flew by you, you know, on the highway or something like that. Every once in a while there was a Walkman. Somebody had something like that. Coach Spencer was a great driver, great storyteller. Some of the best stories and happenings were Spencerisms. You know, just some of the things he would say. And I had the privilege of playing both football and baseball. So I had Coach Spencer as a football coach, and he retired my freshman year, after my freshman year. And when Coach Kendall brought him over to baseball, totally different person. Totally different person. On the football field, you didn't want to cross him. Baseball field, you wanted to go out and have a beer and hang out. He just, the stories, the man eats an apple entirely. I'm talking seeds, core, stem, everything. That was Coach Spencer. I told his daughter at his funeral that same story. And she actually finished my story because she knew what I was talking about. We had 2 van trips, 2 van stories, and I was a driver. I like to drive. We were coming back from Armstrong. We're crossing Fancy Gap. And we had a window blowout one trip. Remember Cockrell? I got glass in my eye. I got glass. I mean, because he was sprawled out next to the door trying to sleep. Well, the window blew out. We have no idea to this day why the window blew out. But anyway, he's hanging over the back. We're pouring water in his eyes to get the glass out. The other story was a similar van story. We're driving. I think Coach Spencer was driving this time. All of a sudden, we have a blowout. Tire. We're off on the side of the road. That tire pushed the gas tank and pushed the pipe of the thing through the gas cover or whatever, sticking out. So it was sticking out of the van. I guess you don't get that on those coach things that you guys. What do you guys ride in now? Back then, probably the Sprinter vans. But again, the transitional thing, and we also have 3 ODAC championships with my class, and that's pretty cool. And being able to play with those guys, and we we still keep in touch, and some are here tonight hanging out and staying in touch with Bridgewater. It's great memories. But the transitional, what I remember was after that my senior year, Coach Kendall was always saying, stick around, let's keep the faith, because we were hoping for a regional berth. We kept waiting, and waiting here. We won the ODAC. We should automatically be in. Well, we didn't make it. And what we learned from that was you had to increase your schedule. You had to get that strength of schedule a little bit more robust. So they started playing teams, and into the late 80s, into the 90s, you guys started playing higher caliber teams throughout our region to build up that resume, which, we thought we were doing really good, and we're beating everybody within our conferences and so on, but we needed to go that next step. And that's why I always think of the 80s kind of as a transitional period of where we were and where we are starting to go, but where we want to be. And, some of the Lynchburg story is a great one. The trips to Savannah were great ones. Being on the championship teams. At 85, I was a freshman. And we thought that was the greatest thing to do, was win the ODAC. We ran into the May Day Festival. I don't know if anybody knows what the May Day, they still do the May Day thing? Everybody, it was basically prom for Bridgewater College. And we go busting in there, we just got off the bus, we got our uniforms on, and we're in there, and everybody's all dressed up, tuxes on, and they just look at us. What are you doing here? They didn't understand, we just won a championship, but, then we won one the next year, and then we ran into a roadblock with Randolph-Macon my junior year, although we did beat Lynchburg in the semifinals. So somehow that was a championship in itself, to beat Lynchburg. Is Lynchburg still the rivalry?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to be sure. And then, who we beat my senior year? Was it Lynchburg? Or was it Macon again? Hampson? Okay. And that was in Memorial Stadium. That's stadium. So again, I also had the honor of saying, when I heard Kurt won 600 wins, I got to say I was here for his first. And that just means a lot, going to what Mark said about family. You meet people, I met my wife here, things just grow from Bridgewater. And you just have to say Bridgewater. And obviously people in this area, but say it when you're outside this area. You never know when that path will cross. Although I do remember we used to have the BC jackets, and we were down in Armstrong, and they said, "Oh, you guys go to Boston College?" Yeah. But yeah, just great time here. I'm glad I can fill in for Greg. And like I said, I hope his daughter's doing well, and go Eagles.
Thank you, Jim. Well, as we move forward, and I think hearing hearing Jim talk about, and I heard conversations from Kurt on this too, that 1988 team not getting a bid, which was a little bit of frustration about what you needed to do. This next group of guys, the team of distinction that's going in tomorrow being recognized, started to reap the benefits of that push that you guys made. And they started to be the ones that started to play the tougher schedules and started to beat some of those teams as well, to give those teams a chance to get to that point. So, to cover the next start here is Ryan Morris, as we call him, Nugget. Class of 1996, team captain, member of 3 ODAC championship teams in 94, 95, 96, and a 2-time NCAA regional appearances in 94 and 95. He played second base while Bridgewater finished his career 8th in walks and 7th in career on-base percentage. He began his coaching career at Bridgewater for the 1997 and 1998 seasons. He then moved on to Old Dominion University in 1999 as an assistant baseball coach. He then coached at Virginia Commonwealth University from 2000 to 2004, where he was the recruiting coordinator. He then moved back to Old Dominion University from 2004 to 2009, where he served as the lead assistant and recruiting coordinator as well. He's recruited and signed, coached 55, or recruited, signed, or coached 55 players to the draft, and has also crossed paths with 11 big leaguers. He also serves as a high school head coach for 1 year at Cape Henry Collegiate High School, where he won the school's first state title. He also coached at Topsail High School, where they were a regional semifinalist. He is now a financial advisor serving clients all over the U.S., but is specializing in serving several minor and Major League Baseball players with his work today. He is joined today by his wife Amy of 23 years, and his son Augie, who's 13, and his daughter Allie June, who's 10, and they make their home in Emerald Isle, North Carolina. So I'm honored. Nugget's a good friend of mine. We played together on the team. I'm honored to have him come back and be willing to speak for that time there that he played in and on Kirk Kendall's behalf. Thank you.
Put the mic down. Thanks so much, Ben, and thanks, Coach, for having me here and having the ability to speak in front of this room. There's so many people here I have so much respect for. So it is truly, I'm humbled and honored to have been asked to speak not only about our team, the team of distinction. I keep having to look down and see what you guys are calling that, but not only the team of distinction and the guys I played with, but the guys that come before us. I can always remember you guys coming to Alumni Day or whatever it was, and I just wanted to play well because you guys set a really high bar. So Ben called me. He's a really good recruiter, salesman. He called me and said, "Hey, do you mind speaking for 10 minutes at this event?" I said, "Yeah. What do you want me to talk about?" And then he says, "I want you to talk about how special Bridgewater is to you, what your experience was like, and then 125 years of Bridgewater College baseball." And I was thinking, well, that's an impossible task. You could ask me to speak for 10 hours or 10 days and I couldn't do that. So I'll do my best. But it truly is an honor to be here. It's real simple, Bridgewater College and what it means to me and the program itself. Bridgewater changed my life, period. I came here also marked as a transfer. I went to another school in our league that doesn't deserve to be mentioned in this event. And I was told I couldn't play. I was told that I wouldn't play anywhere. And told that that's just how it was going to be. And I found my way here. And this place for me changed me not only as a player, it changed me as a student. There's a lot of people here that truly cared about me and that wanted me to do well. I didn't always listen to them, and I did okay. And thanks for mentioning that to the team today, Ben, that I was just a decent student. Which I'll take that, actually. Probably have a paper due somewhere around here. It did change me as an athlete, gave me a ton of confidence, the support, the coaches, the people here, the leaders, changed me as an athlete, and changed me as a person. As many of you know, I came here, my dad and Jason Griffin's dad battled for the Golden Tire Award every year at who could be at the most games. I think Mr. Griffin edged it out by a road game somewhere. I don't know where that was. But my parents were a big part of my life, and I lost my mom shortly after finishing playing here. And a lot of people in this room were there for me, so thank you. But this place changed me. It's not the place, though. It's not the rooms. It's not the dugouts or the benches, which they were nice. But it's the people, all right? The people are really who changed me. Coach Eatwell, Bo Trumbo, John Spencer, Tom Kinder. Most of all, Coach Kendall. You guys were the leaders I needed. You were the men I needed to see do your jobs every day. And I'll never be able to thank you enough. You see, my favorite quote of all time is by a guy named Branch Rickey. All right, now many of you may not know who that is, some of you may. That's right, Branch Rickey was the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was the guy that thought it'd be smart to bring Jackie Robinson to Major League Baseball. And after he did that, the Dodgers went on to be pretty daggone lucky. All right, and they're still lucky today, right? Well, his quote way back when was, "Luck is the residue of design." You know, the more thought you put into it, more effort you put in, the luckier you seem to be. And It's my favorite quote of all time. And I think when people look at Coach Kendall's career and the teams that came through here and the players that came through here and the assistant coaches he had, that a lot of times volunteered their time, all right? I think you'd say, wow, he was really lucky. And I would agree with that. But the truth is, there was an awful lot of design there, all right? See, the true genius, and yeah, I said it, Coach, I said genius. The true genius behind Coach Kendall was really simple. It was the first place I've been where he let us be us. He let us be ourselves and the best version of ourselves. Not only as individuals, but as a team. All right, everybody except for Alan Snow. He would let them be who they were. He had to give out a little more instruction. But and every year, I obviously transferred here and spent 3 years. I wish I could have spent 30. I actually stuck around a couple years and coached because I was having so much fun. But each year in those 3 years and the 2 years I coached with him, each year he approached the team a little bit differently. All right. He changed the way he handled certain people every single year. And that's really hard to do, all right? We get stuck in our ways as coaches, and really he was every year adapting to who he had and what he had. But the message was always the same, all right? He let us be who we were, and he just asked you to play hard. In his words, I need you guys to go full tilt, all right? And to this day, when I hear the phrase "full tilt," I know that means I need to play my ass off. All right. So I can't thank Coach enough for his consistent and steady approach to us at a time where we probably needed more than that sometimes. But he let us fail. He let us go through our struggles, and I think that's really what made those teams great. Truthfully, through all my years as a player and a coach here in that 5-year span, I don't remember any rah-rah clubhouse speeches. I really don't. It was the same every day. He was consistent, he was steady, he was demanding, and he wanted you to play hard. However, I do remember the clubhouse speech after somebody stole Ernie the Eagle mascot, put him in some compromising positions, took photos, and posted them all around campus. I remember that speech. That one I do. And I'm sure you do too, Coach. It wasn't me. As far as you know. So from all of us, Coach, truly, thank you. I think a lot of people in this room would love to say just thank you. To all those that came before our team in 94 and 95 and 96, thanks for laying the groundwork. Thanks for the greatness. I mean, you guys were piling into one van. You didn't have benches, all right? Did y'all have bats? I was allowed to speak for 10 minutes. I was told to speak for 10 minutes. Mark got 30. Ben told me that they were giving out time based on how you hit. So, Mark, you must have been a hell of a hitter. But seriously, to all your teams, thank you for your greatness and kind of showing us the way. To my teammates, first, thanks to Ron Moss. I wouldn't be here. Ron called me when I was at that other place and said, "Dude, you ought to come over here." And I said, "Okay, let's go." So, without Ron, I would have never experienced this, so thank you, Ron. To Joel and Petey and Conley, you guys were, and I can't remember, Mark, it was you who said how welcoming the place was. You guys, I didn't know anything about cows or why the air smelled this way, right? And you guys welcomed me with open arms. I was weird, I had different stretches. I stretched in my room for 2 weeks because I was like, if they see me doing this, there's no shot that they're going to accept me. So I'll tell you a story. We opened up my first year here as a transfer. We went to Georgia, and I was excited about that year. I thought we had a good team. First of all, I was just glad to be a part of it. And we got back from Georgia, and I still don't have an at-bat in Georgia. Well, I take that back. I got one when they brought in, it was getting dark, it was raining and cold, and they brought in a lefty, dropped down lefty, I'm a left-handed hitter, and Coach Kim goes, hey, why don't you grab a bat? And I thought that was coming. So, that was my only at bat in Georgia. I get back, and I'm trying to figure out where I fit in, and I get a knock on my door. And I live by myself, and by the way, at Bridgewater College, if you ask for no roommate, they put you in a closet, give you a mattress, and they're like, hey, good luck with that. True story. I get a knock on my door. And I open the door, and Conley's standing at my door. And he's fired up. And I don't know him that well. But he's good. He's good. He's our best guy. Sorry, Rotor. And at that time, he was our best guy. We were good. And I go, hey, man. He goes, hey, listen. Don't worry about Kendall. You're going to get in there, man. Keep your head up, all right? You're going to get in there. Don't worry about it. And he takes off. I'm like, okay. I hope he's right. But it was that kind of family, you know? He was thinking about me and what I might be feeling like, all right? Same situation, we go back to play the place I transferred from. And I really wanted to win. I wanted to beat those guys really badly. And I was nervous. Had a lot of people there. It was closer to my home. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting on the bench kind of like, trying not to puke. And the guy that I thought was 62 years old, he was a senior, Joe Morgan, comes over to me. And he didn't really talk to me that much at the time. He comes over and goes, hey, man. I go, yeah. He goes, we're going to get them today. You're right. So thank you. Thanks to Buck, I know he's not here, but I love watching Buck compete. He taught us all how to compete. Buck Gordon, the more sticky it got and the harder it got, the more he enjoyed it. I mean, I think that guy laughed through every tight situation we could be in. He taught us all how to compete. And I just want to thank him for that. I should probably thank Christian Saunders. You see, my second year coaching, I was the resident director at one of the resident halls here. I was not really good at that job. And I wasn't there that often, and he kept me from getting fired, which allowed me to coach for about 10, 15 more years. So thank you, Christian. I owe that to you. I want to thank Corey Heimball, who was there to hit every night. And thank you. If you gave Corey two at-bats tomorrow, here's how it'd go. The first at-bat, he'd strike out on a called third that was 2 inches off the plate and tell that guy he didn't know what he was talking about, all right, for the next 3 innings. And the second at-bat, he'd hit a 3-run home run to right center to win the game and hit home plate only to tell the guy he was still wrong. And he shouldn't umpire anymore. Never to crack a smile, neither him nor Dean. I want to thank Alan Snow for making the other end of the double play easier. I want to thank Ben. For being a great friend, great teammate, and probably my favorite teammate of every team I was ever a part of. For those who came after us, I want to thank you for carrying the torch and keeping a great thing going. And finally, for those that are here now and those to come, may that jersey weigh heavy with responsibility to show up every day and go full tilt. Thank you.
Thank you, Milligan. Well, as we move forward here, I wanted to talk about that mid-2000s time frame, and I was coaching with Kirk Kendall for several years afterwards. When Nugget left, I became a dorm director in Wright Hall and became an assistant coach here, and really enjoyed the time I had with that here. So I want to talk about Ricky Reed, who was a class of 2007. Ricky played at Bridgewater from 2004 to 2007, was a member of the 2007 ODAC Championship, and played in the 2006 and 2007 NCAA Regional Tournament. He was named 2004 ODAC Rookie of the Year, 2006 ODAC Player of the Year, and a 2-time All-ODAC First Team Player. Ricky currently ranks second in career at-bats, second in career hits, second in career RBIs, tied most in career doubles, third in career home runs, third in extra base hits, third in career innings pitched. Ricky lives in Lynchburg, he lives in Good, Virginia, where he's a principal broker of Caldwell Banker, Commercial Reed and Company. He's been married for 14 years to his wife Laura and has 3 children, Hunter 7, Reese 4, and Kylie 2. One of the things I'll say before Ricky comes up here, and I want to just add this piece to this here, one of the things that I'm not only proud of recruiting him, I remember going on a recruiting trip with Kurt to see him play in high school, but the guys that he came in with, and several are here today, and I think of all the things those guys have done on the field as players and done on the field for this program that I'm proud of, I'm also very proud that to this day, those guys still get together. How many years is it now in a row at the hunt camp? 18 years in a row, they get to hunt camp together every year. And then they also go now to fishing camp. For how many years is that now? But the point is, they get together every year. And for me, once again, they didn't know each other before they got here, but that common bond is Bridgewater College baseball. And 18 years later, they still make it a point to get together, even as their families continue to grow and everything. So I want to ask Ricky to come up here and go ahead and speak. Thank you, Ricky.
So that was like half my speech right there. And it's going to be tough to follow you. But like Coach said, I played in the 2004 7-7 era. I got to play for Coach Heatwell, Coach Kendall, and Coach Spot. So I like to think Coach Heatwell came to Bridgewater because of me, and then I think he left because of me. But anyway, but yeah, Jono, Brooks, Mike Graves, Mitchell Edwards, Sean Brinkley, all played with them. And Zach is usually part of our group, our hunting and fishing group, and he couldn't make it. He's a baseball coach, and he's got like 12 kids now. He doesn't get out as much, but anyway, yeah, during that time frame, we made it to regionals twice. 2006, 2007, and probably the most memorable moment I had was my senior year before we made it to ODAX barely. We didn't have, our record didn't show how good we were. We were a sub 500 team, and we barely squeaked into the tournament. And but that, anybody around baseball knows that's all that matters. You get there, and then you see what happens. So the best moment of that tournament, and Jono Brooks tells this story 100 times better than I do, and he lived it. We all lived it. But was the day before the championship game. We were playing Hampton-Sydney, and we were big rivals with Hampton-Sydney back then, and they had this catcher, Tony, and he was a little, I wouldn't say little, but he was a stocky, chubby something over there, and he always got in the way of the baseline on plays at home. And Mitchell got hurt earlier in the game, and this guy would go 20, 30 feet up the line. And Coach Kendall, or Coach Heatwell said, next time you knock him into the stands, or what was it? Knock him into the stands. So everybody was like, okay, whatever. So Jono was like, Jono, stand up. See, that's Jono right there. So anyway, Jono hits like his 12th triple of the year, and he breaks my bat on that hit, my D Marini. And so he makes it to third, but they overthrow it, so he starts running home. And the catcher's leaning up, coming off the line, and I see Jono's eyes get this big. And I knew exactly what was going to happen. And he comes running down that line. I can't remember if he had the ball or not. Jono didn't care. He speared the guy and wrapped him up, drove him into the ground, and again, everybody just erupted. Coach Heatwell was fired up, Coach Kendall was fired up, Coach Spots comes running across there, and we just get fired up, and the energy that brought to the rest of that game. We ended up winning that game, and the momentum carried over to the next day. And as fate would have it, we played Hampton-Sydney again, and we just tore them up 7-0. and won the ODAC championship, and the rest is history. But you know, I could stand up here and tell stories like that, you know, all night, and that to me is what it was all about playing at Bridgewater, is all those stories that we tell year after year. And like Coach said, he stole like half my speech. We get together every year, twice a year, and we even get shirts made. You know, Deer Camp 2018, you know, whatever. And we even taught Mike Graves, who's over there. He didn't hunt or fish until he met us, and he's now a sniper for a SWAT team. And I take credit for that. John, take credit for that. But you know, Coach will tell you, I don't. And now that I know Coach is into hunting, he might get an invite to 2023 Deer Camp, and we'll see what he's learned. But I don't have a whole lot to say. Coach will tell you, I didn't say much on the field. I just kind of went out there and did the work, and that's kind of what they taught me to do. And I've carried that on into my career, into fatherhood, and I can't, you know, thank them enough for that. And I appreciate the opportunity to come out here and speak to y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ricky. We're going to wrap up the Kirk Kendall part on the back end of his career. Tyler Hoffman, who I've known for years, played at BC from 2011 to 2014. His team played in the ODAC title each of his 4 years here. He won ODAC title in 2014, played in the NCAA tournament in 13 and 14, and the 2014 team advanced to the final of the NCAA South Regional and holds a program record to this day of 36 wins. He hit the game-winning base hit in the ODAC championship game versus Shenandoah, the Eagles' 6-5 win, top of the 8th inning, scoring Bay Liskey and Zach Hines with 2 outs. To my opinion, one of the biggest hits in BC baseball history. He has spent the last 8 years, he spent the 8 years at Mathers Construction as a VP of Finance, and he's now the Manager of Revenue and Reporting for Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative. He's served as, and no longer anymore, the General Manager of the Waynesboro Generals for 8 years. He currently lives in Mount Sydney with his wife Blair, who's been married to for 5 years, and he has 2 daughters, a two-year-old daughter named Teal and a 2-month-old, so they have a night out for a little bit, named Renly. So I'm honored. I know Tyler Hoffman for years, and I'm honored to have him come and speak here on the back end. Thank you, Tyler.
Well, first off, I can tell you that my track record's by no means as long as the guys that came before me, and without that double, by no means probably be up here today. But without that being said, I think that's what's special about this place. You know, the opportunity to speak tonight, thank you, Coach. It's always special for me to be back, even though I'm close to the area. You know, you just never get back enough. When Coach Spots initially reached out, the first thought that came to mind for me was, how can I put into words the impact this program's had on so many men and young men even today. I'm sure each one of us has their own unique story, and hopefully, you know, we've heard a lot of them tonight, and hopefully they'll continue. But, you know, our 2014 group, we had 11 seniors. We were able to put together a season that ended, as Coach said, 1 win shy of the NCAA Division III World Series. We set program record 36 wins. Combined, we had 127 wins over 4 years. We played in every ODAC championship, and finally, you know, we got to win our final year in 2014. I'm sharing all of this not because, you know, not only we're proud of the accomplishment, but we're proud of what it took to get there. And whether the motivation was coming up short those previous 3 years, the ODAC title, or striving to follow in the footsteps of the folks before us, or just simply knowing no other way but to meet the expectations that have been set for this program. This program is built on tradition, and nobody embedded that into us more than Coach Kendall. And by saying very little, he inadvertently said a lot to all of us. Class after class, year after year, Coach Kendall set the expectation. It's often said, on bad teams, no one leads. On average teams, coaches lead. On great teams, players lead. And Bridgewater College has had more great teams in their 125 years here than any other program in ODAC history. And that's a credit to the job Coach Kendall's done in his many years, and then those prior that laid the groundwork for us. He built his teams to be led by the players, and he held each of us accountable. His desire to win, competitive spirit, flowed into his players and carried on that blue-collar mentality that made Bridgewater baseball so great for so many years. So Coach Kendall led, it's hard to believe, Bridgewater baseball for over a quarter of its history, over the 125-year history. And there's definitely plenty of good stories to tell, and hopefully some of those could be shared after this, not all of them today. But the majority honestly come back to his ability to create good leaders in the program. And as a group, we had a lot of, I guess, common sayings, I guess you could say, from Coach Kendall. And as a catcher, one of them flowed from, typically on a 3-2 count, you get the whatever he wants. And you get a point at you, and it was basically, though, you look into it more today. At the time, you were just like, okay, here we go. But it was the trust in the guy on the mound. It was the trust in the guy behind the plate, and whatever he's most comfortable with at this time. And again, like that would most often occur on a 3-2 pitch, so it was a big pitch. This would also accompany his love for 2-0 changeups. One pattern 2-0 changeup that would ultimately turn into a rollover ground ball. And eventually, as hard as this is to believe, this led to the ability for our group, for pitchers and catchers, to call their own game. Another statement commonly heard around the program was, captains manage it. And I heard that a lot.
You had a lot to manage.
Yeah, you said it. No matter the issue, big or small, Coach Kendall most often let his programs be led by the players. This instilled the trust and leadership and accountability into the teams, and it quickly put into the perspective the many headaches that come with managing 18 to 22-year-olds on a regular basis, and I'm sure that led to 34 years of gray hairs. But whether it was pushing bands down River Road, running Cardiac Hill through preseason competitions, and I've told this story a lot tonight, but the one thing that I can claim that no other group ever had in this room, I would suppose, was a double-wide trailer as a locker room by the field. When they renovated this facility, that was our locker room, and I'll be honest with you, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to our program for that year. There was more time spent in that double-wide trailer by the field, and if you didn't have the code, you weren't getting in. And it was, that speaks to the bond and the fraternity of guys in this program. But with all that leads to, Coach Kendall knew how to create the adversity in the right way for his players. And he pushed them to their limits mentally and physically. And ultimately that led to mentally and physically tougher teams. And ultimately, as it shows, more wins on the field and a stronger foundation for this program. So, as our 2014 team embodied, our team motto was all in. We were led in the dugout by true leaders, and we took the field with brothers that knew that what we were playing for. The expectations have been set, the foundation that the program was built on. And I speak for many of my teammates when I say we're proud to call Bridgewater College baseball alums. We think that everyone that's played any part in laying the foundation of this program, and are excited for the many years to come and the continued success of this program. So in closing, we know this program is being led in the right direction, Coach Spots. It's about the right things. And the traditions, expectations, the blue-collar mentality are what makes this place special. And it's hung countless banners on those walls. There's no doubt the foundation remains strong and the future's bright. So thank you again for the opportunity. I look forward to many more banners being hung on those walls.
things I wanted to do was have Kurt speak, and before I did that, I've known Tim Nicey for several years, and Tim I know played for Kurt, and Kurt has continued to come see your band play, Tim, and done those things. So I wanted Tim to introduce Kurt. Tim's a 91 BC graduate, member of the 88, 91 ODAC championship teams, was second team All ODAC selection as a pitcher in 1989, as an All ODAC as an outfielder in 1991. And one of the things that was brought up tonight, as Jim mentioned, he won a big win, threw over 530 innings of relief, and BC's win over a defending national champion NC Wesleyan in 1990. Since he left BC, he's worked in human resources for 30 years in McKee Foods and VDOT. He's worked the last 17 as director of human resources for Blue Ridge Community College. He also is currently assistant baseball coach at Spotswood High School and head coach of the Grottoes Cardinals in the RCBL. He's been married to his wife Becky for over 31 years. His son Austin was drafted in I believe in 2013 in the 10th round by the Houston Astros. He's continued his professional career, at least last year with the York Revolution, I believe, of the Atlantic League. Tim and his wife have also welcomed a 5-month-old granddaughter, Carson, to the family. I'm sorry, you're right, Carson. So with that being said, I'm going to have Tim speak up and introduce Kurt, who I wanted to have say a few words. Tim Nicey.
All right, so when Ben called me and asked if I would introduce Coach, I was like, sure, no problem, I'll be glad to do that. Let me get this down here where Nugget had it. I know how you feel. And I said, yeah, I'd be honored to do that. And so then I got off the phone and I thought, how do you introduce a guy that everybody knows and is obviously the most important person that's been a part of this program for the last 125 years? That's going to be tough. So I thought, wow, I don't even know where to start. But then I remembered one thing that Bill Edelman told me a long time ago was nobody ever complains about a speech or an introduction or a talk that's too short. So I'll keep that in mind. I'll be brief, but I did want to share just a couple of stories, and a couple people have already mentioned a little bit. But when I got here in '87, obviously Coach had only been here a couple of years. That they'd already won an ODAC championship, and Jimmy's group had won a championship with Dr. Kinder. So the winning culture was already here. Obviously, when I got here, and that team, my freshman year, as people have mentioned, we were 25-8, I think, and I think we lost 5 or 6 games the first week in Savannah. So we didn't lose, but maybe 2 or 3 games after we got back, and we dominated the ODAC tournament. I don't remember what it was, but none of the games were close. And we thought for sure we were going to go to regionals. And we stayed around, practiced, and obviously we didn't. And I can remember when Coach came in that day to let us know we were coming here to practice and told us that we didn't get a bid. I remember him saying, what we have to do is we have to start playing those guys, meaning North Carolina Wesleyan and Methodist, play them anywhere, anytime, kick their ass, and they'll have to let us in. This is basically what he told us. So we did, and as been mentioned, in 1990, we were able to beat North Carolina Wesleyan down there at their place. And then with those teams that came afterwards in the mid-90s, took it to a whole nother level, and it was wonderful to watch that. As that happened over the years, and the program just went to even larger heights. But one of the things that I remember about playing for Coach is how calm and cool he generally was. No matter the situation, if it's a difficult situation or if it's a bad call or a bad umpire, sometimes I was like, man, get after that guy, but he was always calm and cool and collected. Although he did get ejected one time. Fortunately for me, it was the same game that I was ejected from. And that Timmy Shiflett was ejected from. But it was here, and the umpire was terrible. He'd been terrible the entire game, and I was thrown out early for arguing balls and strikes for Doug Shiflett. It was a bad call on Doug, and I yelled from the on-deck circle, and I was ejected. And then a couple innings later, a foul tip came back and hit the umpire square in the mask, and Timmy Shiflett yelled from center field, "Oh no, I sure hope he isn't hurt." And the guy behind the plate didn't hear it, but the guy in the field heard it, so he threw him out. So Timmy and I are sitting in the bleachers, and an inning or two later, coach goes out to make a mound visit, and they just have a regular mound visit, the umpire goes out, and then as he's leaving, all of a sudden, the umpire throws him out. I was like, what happened there? So he comes up to the bleachers with us, and Timmy said, "What'd you say?" And he said, well, he came out to break up the visit, and he said, "Okay, coach, been out here long enough, let's break it up." Coach said, I said, "Yeah, you're right, I have been. First time you've been right all day, but you're right." So even when he was ejected, it was calm and cool. It wasn't, Earl Weaver, Tommy Lasorda type of deal. And we sat there for about a half inning, and finally Timmy leaned over and said, "So we don't have to run for this, right?" And Timmy and coach said, "No, you don't need to run. He's terrible." So thank goodness for that. A couple people have mentioned, I don't know how it was when, after Coach had 600 or 700 wins, but when back in the day when we were probably still trying to get to 100, which by the way, I think it was when we got the 700th win, maybe they sent a thing out and they were going, the 100th win, 200th win, 300th win. I remembered, we didn't know at the time that the 100th win was a big deal, but I remembered that after looking at it, it was one of the games of a doubleheader at Emory and Henry. And the reason I remembered is because we used to go early the day before and stay in it wasn't even a dorm, it was barracks that we slept in at Emory and Henry, and then play the doubleheader the next day. And we were going down, I think it was my senior year, and I asked, can we just go down and back same day and not go down there and stay in those barracks? And he's like, "No, we need to get a good night's rest. We need to go down a day early." And I said, "Let's just go down." It was a 5-hour drive, and he said, "Okay, we'll go down and back, but you all better not lose." So we went down and back, and we won both games, and I think one of them was maybe by a slaughter roll. So I didn't realize, we didn't know at the time that one of those was the 100th win, but it turned out to be. In 1991, my senior year, we didn't have a real good team. We didn't have a real good season during the regular season. We had graduated some really good players, a lot of these guys over here, and we didn't have a large senior class. We were playing a lot of freshmen, and I think we maybe finished 4th or 5th in the conference in the regular season. We were going into the ODAC tournament, and I was sitting in Coach's office the week right before that, or maybe the Monday right before that, and talking about it, and Steve Hartley and I were the captains, and he said, if you and Hartley can keep those guys focused, he may have said sober or straight, I don't know. But it was one of those. He said, we can win this thing. We can win it. We have the best team. And as far as we know, we were able to keep them focused or straight or whatever it was. And we went down and we beat W&L the first game, close game, and then went down and won the conference tournament. So we never felt like we were out of it, regardless of the situation. I think a lot of people have talked about, the thing that you always knew playing for Coach was it was going to be structure, it was going to be discipline, the expectations were going to be there. Then as long as you did that, you were going to be fine. There weren't the rah-rah speeches and so forth. And that's the sort of thing that kind of like a lot of us with your parents or with teachers or coaches, you don't really realize it until after the fact. And then after the fact, you go back and you look back and then maybe implement some of that stuff in what you do in as a coach or as a parent or at your job. And I think that's one of the things that Coach did really well that helped prepare us as you look around and see so many folks that are here that were really good players and were really good players on the field, but they also have been very successful off the field. A lot of people in a lot of different areas have been very successful. And a lot of that goes back to the importance of, doing the work every day and being structured and being disciplined and the things that were ingrained into us as part of the program here. So remember what Bill told me, I won't go on any longer. I'll leave it at that. But it is an honor for me to be able to be here and to introduce, obviously, the winningest coach in the history of the program and one of the best Division III coaches of all time, Kirk Kendall.
Well, Ben was not sharing a lot with me about this night, as I was thinking he was not sharing enough with me, so I really didn't know what to expect. And I didn't even get to see the program until this evening, so once I saw who was talking, I said, well, this could be interesting. But a lot of truths, a lot of stories we can't tell here. Some people alluded to them and kept telling them anyway. That's for Magnolias, and we need to keep that way now. But my card is all over the place, so I have to start all over. I'm just going to try to kind of cap this off by saying that, first of all, I appreciate Ben getting this together. I mean, I went through my coaching career. I was coaching when we hit 100 years, and I didn't even know it. For Ben to come in and say, this is the 125th year of the program, I was clueless, to be honest with you. But that's Ben. I mean, he tracks those things. It's important to him, and history is important, and it is. And what we've accomplished as a whole, from everybody that came up here tonight and spoke, is very true. I mean, everybody in this room and the people you played with, the people that coached here, people that supported us, have made this possible for us to have the program we have, the success we've had. It's not any one person, it was everybody doing their part. And I know I'm appreciative of Ben getting this together because this is a great celebration. It'll be a great storytelling time. The truth will get stretched, as Raylan, Hebo, and I were talking earlier, that those stories are going to get wilder and wilder. But there's a lot of truth to what those stories are, and they made the friendships that are here. Not only are guys like Ricky and his group have gone on to stay together and do great things together and stay connected. That's happened with almost every team that's probably been here, and a lot of our players have gone on to do great things, whether it was in coaching, education, the business sector, law enforcement, whatever that may be, but they've all been successful in some way or another. I mean, who'd have thought, I said earlier, who'd have thought Sean Hansby would be carving wood, carving trees and doing the things he's doing, and he was not an art major, as he'll tell you. But just phenomenal things are happening by a lot of people that we now realize. Timmy Nicely's got a band. Did y'all know that? And it's a good band. Big city band. I mean, if you haven't heard him, go listen to him. I would have never thought Timmy Nicely sang. But apparently he does. And I've been to listen to the band, and they're very good. So just a lot of great things come out of what has happened here at Bridgewater College in this program. I'm a small part, not as big as you guys are trying to make it. I do have to say something about the people that spoke, something relative to what they spoke about. I'm going to start with Jim. Jim's right about the fight with Lynchburg. It did happen, but the significance of what this talks about us as unity as a program. When that fight erupted, and it happened because the umpire threw out the kid that got picked off, the Abel kid, threw him out. So then Jerry Thomas, their coach, legendary coach, and when you played Lynchburg was a team to beat. They had the tradition, and that's where it had to change, and it changed that day. And I'll tell you why. And that weekend, it changed because when Jerry got thrown out, he left the stands because the umpire said he had to. Well, they made a rule that year. The coaches didn't have to leave because they had to be there with their players. So he didn't have to go up in the stands. He had to go up in the stands, but he didn't have to leave the ballpark. The umpire saw him in the stands and walked over toward their dugout to tell him he had to leave, and he said, "No, I don't." He said, "If you don't leave and whatever the time frame was, this game's over." And we had won the first game, so the second game was important. If we won the second game, we were going to host. At the end of the day, we lost that game, but I'll tell you how we got there. They forfeited the game, and they left the dugout. They left the field by our dugout. By leaving by our dugout, their players were coming after the umpires. So when we get out of a dugout, it's just an automatic free-for-all. But that's not what I'm going to tell you. Out of the stands comes the alumni baseball players. They threw more punches than anybody on our team. We wouldn't want to know that at the time because that could have been a problem. And poor Dr. Geyser, who was a bald-headed man, president of the college, who had a handkerchief on his head at the ball game because he had trying not to get sunburned, was probably just totally lost what to say that day. But at the end of the day, we ended up 13-1, both teams. We won a coin flip. We hosted, beat them anyway. So that was the day the trend changed and Bridgewater baseball became relevant and Lynchburg started heading the other direction. So we kind of took over from that day forward. That team started that process. Ryan Morris, I got to ask him a question and see if he's going to be honest, because I know the answer. Where's he at? Nugget. What was your career batting average?
300. Come up here again.
I had it recorded as 299. But it's always a good story because we're going to call it 300. He's a great storyteller. He'll tell more stories and keep you entertained than you can imagine.
And I got more if you don't believe me.
I know you did. Ricky Reed is one of the quietest, and you probably can tell that from him talking up here. He's one of the quietest players that I ever coached. Didn't say a whole lot, not a lot of emotion. I think I had to get his back one time when he hit a home run and he looked at it a little bit too long and the opposing pitcher didn't like it here. And I don't even remember the team, but you guys probably do. And so I went in to defend him when the other coach came out of the dugout. What team was it? You guys know?
John Fisher.
I don't know. The other coach came out and was trying to complain to the umpire. I said, look, that's not him. And it really wasn't him, but he did look at it a little long. But anyway, it went a long ways, he said. But Ricky just went to work. He pitched for us, and he was good at that. And he hit for us. He was good at that. He just was a solid player all the way around. And I had to just say that because he did not say much when he was out there. And I'm going to try to keep us moving. Tyler Hoffman, significant, biggest hit, no doubt, in the history of BC baseball, for a lot of reasons. Because our nemesis at that time was Shenandoah. And I'll tell you what, that was the biggest hit, and we started just dominating them after that particular day. Knocked them out of regionals and everything, and that was even better. So, yes, that might have been why you're up here, but you know what? He was a very good catcher. He was a very good catcher, and he might not have been a 400 hitter, but he had the biggest hit that day, and that's what matters. That's why I always
They make it $3.99 anyways.
And then Tim Nicely, I was just going to say, I mean, he's another guy. I never said a whole lot, but Kevin Helmick, and those guys, Doug Shiflett, all those guys. We had, what was in the dugout? What were those wrestlers in the dugout? We had the Road Warriors at every game in the dugout, little figurines at every game, and those guys made sure they were there. And that's what I remember, one of the things I remember that group. But no, the fact that I find out he's got a band, I go listen to him sing, I said, dang, they're pretty good. He's pretty good. Just totally shocked me, but just these are things that mean the most when you think back, right? We won a lot of games, we won some championships, but it's those stories that you're going to tell later that were told here tonight that make it special for me. I mean, how many of you in this room, I know a lot of you have, but met your significant other and married her? Here, there's quite a number, right? See, just raising your hand, including myself, right? So those are things that you don't even think about when you think about what we're talking about. And then friendships I was talking about, like Ricky and his group. You know, I wanted to say something about the assistants that I had, and there's no rhyme or reason sometimes why I had certain assistants, because sometimes that was just who was going to be your assistant. Whether they volunteered or they said you can have, or so-and-so is going to be your assistant. And I start with John Spencer. When I took over, I needed an assistant to watch this young guy who was very young, 26 I think, going to take over a college baseball program, and who knows what he might do when he hit the road. No stories from him. Those are for Magnolias. But in any case, but I think we all would say we were so glad he was part of it, you know? And there's one thing I can tell you about John Spencer coaching. He might not have known a lot of baseball, but he hated Hampton-Sydney and W&L. And when we beat Hampton-Sydney down there, he was the happiest man on earth for the championship. And then I hope I don't leave any assistants out. I'm just going to kind of generally name them. Bob Knott became an assistant. He was an electrician at the college. And he came connected through Jeff Dean, who played for me, who was working in, I think, was coaching with me and then was working with Bob as an electrician. The two of them together helped me for a while, and I lose track of the order. Kevin Helming helped me for, and I was going to ask him earlier, what years were you coaching with me? Because I can't remember these things. Former player. We had Rob Marcioni, was our sports information director. He helped us. That wasn't by plan. He just did it on his own on the side. He wasn't paid for that. Sean Hannity, Ben Spots, Ray Heatle, Scott Hearn. I'm probably missing people, but those people were all special in the process of how we did what we did. They made it that we could be successful because they gave their time. And of course, some of them were obviously baseball oriented, which not all of them were. But you know, regardless of their contribution, they made it possible for us to be successful and for us to win the championships we won. And at the end of the day, it was the players. My goal was to motivate you. That didn't take much. I think more was to make you believe you could. I grew up, don't ask, I can't even tell you where this came from 100%, I always say this. I grew up and just never thought I was going to lose. I didn't want to lose at anything. And a lot of you grew up that way, that mentality. I was an Orioles fan. My dad, my grandfather were Red Sox fans, so you had to listen to games on the radio. So we drive somewhere, I'd be in the back seat laying down, and I told my dad to put the game on the radio, and it didn't matter what the score was, we were down, we were listening to the last out. And I believe they could win. And if you remember, if you're an Orioles fan, which Hanfey is, Penske, a couple of you, they had a miracle on 33rd Street because they played in Baltimore at the time, and they would always come up with a way to win, and that's what it was labeled. And so they won a lot, so I just became a believer, maybe because I was an Orioles fan at the time. Now, they're not the same right now, so we'll just forget that. And no, I'm not a Yankees fan for the guys that are over here, Yankees fans. But I always had this belief that whatever I was involved with, I felt like we could win. I wouldn't think of it any other way. And I just wanted our players to always believe if you put the right time and effort in, we could do that. And to me, that was my job. I do want to say something about a couple of traditions. The cardiac hill, Dr. Kinder is the one that introduced us to that. You guys that played for me didn't have to do quite what we had to do back in the day. We did have to do 6 and over, as Mark said. That was a fact. Well, you go do that right now and tell me how many miles that is. All right? And then at the end of the career, you guys that did it like 4 times and didn't have to go over, you guys complained about it and did half of it. So just want you to understand that. Now, where's Hunter? Is Hunter Clover, Jeff Snyder, and Reed Long still here? Or you guys got curfew? You're hearing all this tonight, right? Oh, yeah. So you're understanding, right? You got a break on the hill already. Just wanted you to know, right? Because he hasn't done it. But maybe that's something you tell the guys, we don't win tomorrow. We're going to run hard yet. You know? Think about that. Maybe that's a motivator. I got to tell a story, a tradition of eating at Mrs. Wilkes or nice restaurants. We would go to Savannah, Mrs. Wilkes boarding house. If we said, let's eat there tomorrow, y'all would say, yeah, let's do that. I'm telling you, 100%, except for Mr. Tysinger back there and his counterpart, Gary Minnick, who's not here. Curtis, I don't know if you were part of this or not, but I still remember we were in vans, ate there, and we're heading to Atlanta to play after this meal. We have maybe an off day. And on the way over, they're bitching in the back of the van about the food. You know why? Because all they wanted was their meal money, so they go to the gas station, get 2 hot dogs, and make money on the meal. Is that not the truth?
That's 100% right.
True.
That's 100% right.
If you think about traditions, you think about overcoming adversity, and I can give you 3. They were already mentioned, but you might not have picked up on it. In '85, we had the flood in the fall. What happened in '86 spring? We didn't have a field to practice on. What happened in '86 spring? We won an ODAC championship. In '96, we had a flood in the winter. What happened in '96 spring? Won a championship. Tyler was talking about 2014. We had a locker room, and that was the worst thing to try to keep organized.
Awesome. Good time.
Yeah. It's a trailer. You're trying to tell the guys to keep their stuff picked up. They got a chair and space, and your uniforms got to get washed this way. And don't leave them sitting there. Tracy Wagner's not here, he should be. I could have started him. That guy never washed his practice gear. But that was the nastiest place, that, regardless of what he says. But they had, through the adversity of that mess, not having ideal situations where you have your own locker room, nice place, etc. Again, won a championship. So we have overcome adversity many times, and we could go to other scenarios. But I think an idea of tradition here is winning and the excellence that this program has laid out there for us. It started way back in time with those early teams and coaches and players, and it's continuing to where we are today. So I, from my end, appreciate everything you guys have done, that have been a part of that process, whether you played for me or you played for coaches prior, or you coached here, and to Ben and what he and his players are trying to get done now. Guys, I can tell you this, and Coach has been there. Doesn't matter how it's going now, it's how it's going to end, right? So you're going to start tomorrow with hoping the next step, right? At the end of the day, it's what happens at tournament time. We went in there as a 6, 5, 4 seed and won the tournament. All right, we went in as a 1 seed and won the tournament. But the harder ones are those ones that nobody counted on you. So you got to just believe yourself, and you got to put the time and effort. And you can't. There's nobody we went out there ever to play that we didn't believe we could win. We played. The North Carolina situation was they were national champions the year before, and we went down there and beat them the very next year. They were like 7-0, 9-0, and we beat them. And then we had to turn around and grab a couple cheeseburgers on the fly, whatever team that was, I can't remember, on the fly, and go play Methodist, who was the next best team in the region, and try to play them. When we jumped up, I think Tater hit a grand slam. Somebody did. Tater's Andy Moore hit a grand slam or something like that. We're still eating cheeseburgers in the dugout. And we're up 4-0 on Methodist, and we're not supposed to be doing this. But it was that type of thing that you had to see as a player, as a coach, to understand we can play with these guys. And when that started happening, we played the Dixie-ODAC matchup. That was a way to take the two best, ideally, ODAC teams. I would ask somebody else to do it with us, and play the two best USA South teams. And we started doing that and playing head-to-head and started beating them, and life changed. And I'm going to tell you what that meant for where we are now. This conference got better because we did that, and because what you guys did, and the successes that you've had, our conference is better because that. Ben can tell you right now, his challenges are much harder now as it was when I got out, because everybody's put the effort forth and everybody's better and doing what it takes to beat the best in the region and in the country. And so it's all because of what you guys did and how you laid it out. It's not because of any one person, and I appreciate from the bottom of my heart everything you guys done for me, who played for me, and all the nice things you said tonight. And Ben, it's thank you to you for getting this together. He's going to talk hopefully about something real important here in a minute of what this can mean, but it's his idea, it was his creativity to do this, and Ben, thank you for getting it together, and good luck tomorrow, guys.
Two things here.
Oh, Coach, I forgot one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's been a lot of drinking going on. 7 o'clock on the track tomorrow, guys. That was a Rotimer. Rotimer gave me that one. I can do it to him. He was one of those, probably.
We used to have this 9-year hall, like the CDD shit, 11 o'clock and 9-year hall check-ins before doubleheader games. Guys would walk in, he'd see you, and then he'd walk back out. So, here's a little one thing. I'll say this about Kurt, and I've learned this from Kurt being around for the year. He is one of the most competitive people I've ever been around. Whether it's going on a spring break trip to Atlanta and playing pool, or seeing him play ping pong, or basketball, or intramural basketball, or how he approached the game. He was one of the most competitive people I've been around. So, I think two things here before we wrap up here. One, I wanted to introduce you to our current baseball captains. Because there's two things I told our guys today. I said, as guys come here for this evening, as guys come tomorrow for Team of Distinction, as an alumni of the program, what people want to do is they want to come back and see that it's taken care of. Like, it's in good hands. It's going in the right direction. And I think that, I continue to say this, as we've struggled this year a little bit to get off the front end here, I still enjoy going to practice every day. I've got good young men who work hard, who are coachable, who play hard, who compete every day, and even though we haven't got off to the record we want right now, and some of that we've done ourselves, and some unfortunately happens in the game at times. I've got guys that I enjoy coaching every day. So with that being said, just to come up here and say a few quick words. Senior Hunter Clever from Waynesboro, PA. Senior Jeff Snyder from Reisterstown, Maryland. And Junior Reed Long from Chesapeake, Virginia. And I've told them, one of them will say word, these guys handle a lot of our recruits on campus on a regular basis. And guys that we continue to enjoy coaching. But I told them I just wanted them to say a few words of what they learned and where our program's at right now.
So I drew the short straw, so here I am. Coming back to you, so we got time based on our hitting ability, so 30 seconds, coach. So, but yeah, so not a great start for us, but trending in the right direction. Transition from Coach Kendall to Coach Spots has been really smooth for us. I was Coach Spots' first year, and from then I've loved every moment of it. Things have been the same. We still hate Lynchburg. Bus drives, we do get a coach bus, but to make it feel better, we did get stuck in a Denny's parking lot, so things still happen. But yeah, we're super excited for this year. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for paving the way for us. There's not a moment I get onto the field that I don't look at the walls and see everything that the history has been before me, and it really inspires me to keep playing my best and really push my teammates to my best as well. So thank you guys.
Well, I think the last thing I'll say here as we wrap up here is, first of all, I want to say I'm very proud to be the head baseball coach here at Bridgewater College, and I think that, as an alumni from here, I understand the tradition, and the ones that spoke before us, that came before me, Jim DeLucas, Doug Shiflett, those teams, I used to look at media guys from those guys and see the media guys. I have them in my office, I've kept them. I think they're collectibles for me. Because I used to look at those before the internet, before all those things would happen. You look at those and see those players that came before you, look at the stats from the year before, look at the record books, see how the cover was designed with ODAC championships on it, and I always wanted to be a part of that. And I'm very grateful for what those have done before us. I will say this, as I alluded to briefly, we're off to a rough start this year. We're 5-12. But I feel like not only do I enjoy coaching these guys every day, I feel very confident that we'll get going in the right direction. We have a veteran club that's had a lot of success and has done a lot of good things for us. We just haven't quite got it rolling yet like it needs to, and that's one of the things about baseball. Now, when you play 162 games in the big leagues, that time can come. When you're playing 40, it goes by quick. So our goal is to get it moving as we go forward. But I want you to know that when we recruit here and we talk about the tradition here, is our goal is to win a national championship, and our goal is to win a conference championship, and our goal is to get to a regional. Those goals have not changed in what we try to do and how we run our program, the language we speak about, and what we're trying to do here when we sell our program. And my goal is to give our guys the best experience possible, and I want them to leave here saying that because I played for Bridgewater College baseball, my experience was first class, the relationships I had were good. And because of that, we continue to do things like I learned from Kurt. We went to California last year, took our team to California to play. I took on that trip now, I think 7 or 8 times I've been on that trip, with the majority of those with Kurt. We're taking our team to Texas next year to play for spring break. And we continue to try to do things we can. One of my goals as coach of this program is to try to continue to get our alumni more engaged, whether that's social media, which is not a strength of mine, email, mailings, annual alumni newsletters. So anything I can do to get people engaged to our program and what we have here. And then also too, look, let's face it, one of the things we're trying to generate here is to continue to get that connection back to our program and to generate fundraising opportunities for our program. And I don't go into the details tonight, but that's one of the things that, one of the comments I've always told our players is your goal is to leave your mark in our program in a positive way over your 4 years. Leave your mark. And I think one of the things that's important for me and I tell our players as they move on, that alumni can continue to leave their mark in a positive way in our program. And as we move on from the playing days, we move on to the other phases, that I'm always thankful and hopeful that alumni will continue to get back to our program, because it doesn't go in my pockets. It goes to making those players that play here now experience that much better, whether it's equipment, whether it's facilities, whether it's upgrades we're trying to do. So we want to try to continue to increase that alumni giving and alumni friendship, because I will say this, our alumni base is larger and more successful than anyone else here at Bridgewater College. We've had a very large, successful base here, so that's one of the things we're trying to do. And The last thing I'll say, we are in the early stages of trying to continue to improve our facility. It's a facilities race in Division III baseball. A lot of people are doing things to make their facilities better, and we're in the beginning stages here of trying to improve several parts of our facility, particularly our backstop and areas around that we need to upgrade and make some adjustments with. So that's one of the things we're trying to move forward with, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from me about that as well as we go forward, and understand you can play a part in that as we continue to improve our facility as we go forward. So lastly, I just want to thank everyone for coming. It means a lot to me when we get people to come back to these events. I know I went over a little bit, but the bottom line is, I think as you leave here today, you realize that our program is strong, the tradition is rich, but I also want you to leave here knowing that because of the 3 young men that stood up here today, because of the guys I have on my roster, and I tell them this, if anyone comes and watches us play, I want them to know that you know how to play the game the right way. So play it hard and get after somebody. And, I feel like we're continuing to go in the right direction. And I bet someone you'd be proud of how we're trying to do this. So thank you for attending. I will say this. I want to thank a couple of things. The alumni office with Tyler Bradley and Tammy Steele for helping me coordinate this. Lauren Floor and special events. Marketing office, advancement office with Meg Reiner. The dining services who took care of the food tonight. I want to thank Kurt Kendall who provided the alcohol tonight and donated that. So I'm thankful for that. And then also too, I never thought I'd say that, would you? And the last thing I would say tonight too is through a generous alumni donation and support, we do have tonight at Magnolia's, and I know we're a little behind schedule, but that's fine. As Magnolia's, we do have I guess an open tab is what I would say, controlled but open tab at Magnolia's here in Bridgewater. And I'm thankful for that support, for that, for someone just to understand and appreciate the time we're having here tonight. So I appreciate that as we go forward. Anyway, so as we go forward, it's just time to gather and continue to be with each other. So thank you again for coming. I appreciate the opportunities, and I welcome everyone for here tonight. So thank you.
Huh? Babe, I got